Hey, Larry here. Acts 29 today. Coming to you from Sunny World headquarters in Chiang Mai, Thailand. I'd like to welcome all the viewers in Thailand and around the world. Well, I left you last time up at the train station, and this is part 4 in this series. And so I was up in this train station and I went out in the evening and I was just taking a walk, and all of a sudden I just really felt like the Holy Spirit said to me, this is what I've called you to do, to go to countries to help people who don't have anything, and to minister in these different countries to these different people. And it was just a sense in my spirit that this is what I was called to. This was the call in my life, is to do missions work. But something very important here. The call is not the sending. The call is the call, but it's not the sending. Now, Moses was called to deliver the children of Israel from Egypt, but he didn't do that on day one. He was on the 40-year plan. And it was 40 years before he went back to deliver the children of Israel from the land of Egypt. Because there was a process that had to take place in Moses' life. And it was a process of getting to the end of Moses, where there's nothing left of me. And then God can send us. So it's very important, and I'll talk about this more later on, about the call is not the sending. Some people get the call and they go, oh wow, I need to get going. I'm called to do this, so boom, they take right off. And there needs to be preparation, all kinds of preparation. So the call is not the sending, and for me, it was basically the 20-year plan, because it would be 20 years before I would go out of the country again. So when we were done doing the crusades, and I had this thing happen at the train station where I felt like this was a call in my life, we left South India, went back to Bombay. We stayed overnight there one night and then flew back to the States. On the way back to the States, we stopped in Tel Aviv, Israel, to refuel. And it was kind of a wartime thing going on there, so they just taxied to the end of the runway, got off the runway a little bit, trucks came out, refueled. I could see warplanes all around, and then we took off again. But on the last night in Bombay, I went down to the beach to watch the sunset, of course. My favorite thing to do, right? I was watching the sunset, and I had saved up all my change on this trip. So I had a whole bunch of change, and I had it in my 2 pockets. And they were just bulging with this change that I had. Because I was thinking, well, I'll find somebody, that I can kind of, maybe bless with this change. So while I was watching the sunset, this young kid walked up, and he had a monkey that was on a little rope, and he had a pot that he was carrying. And he came up to me and just stood there. And so I thought, oh, well, this would be a good thing, you know. So I pulled some change out, and it dropped in the sand, and this monkey dug it out, found it, and ran up, put it in the little boy's, put it in this young man's pot. And so then the monkey ran up my leg and started just taking change out of my hand. But before it was over, this young guy had collected all this change, probably more money than he had seen in his whole life. So that was a real blessing for both of us, because I know it really blessed him. So then I went back home, and so a little later on, I'm like 27 years old, and I was engaged to get married, but it was going to be a while before I got married, and so one day my folks offered to pay my way through a Bible school, and they asked me, you know, did I want to go to Bible school? They would pay my way to go through the Bible school, and I had never thought of that before, anything about it. And so I was thinking, well, I don't know. Yeah, maybe I should do that. So I prayed about it. And, you know, the Holy Spirit spoke to me real clear, and he said, no, Larry, I do not want you going to Bible school. I'm going to do OJT with you, which is on the job training. And I'm going to teach you a different way. I'm going to teach you as you go, and where I lead and guide you. I'm going to teach you on the job. So I don't want you going to the Bible school. And yeah, I thought that was a little different, but you know, you do what the Holy Spirit wants to do, right? So I didn't go to Bible school. I got married. We had 3 wonderful children, 2 girls and a boy, Rachel, Leah, and Peter. And I learned how to fly when I got out of the service, so I had my license. I had a private pilot's license, commercial instrument, multi-engine ratings and all that. So I went to work as a pilot early on out of Portland International in a very small commuter airline. But there were so many pilots getting out of Vietnam at the time that it was really hard to get a decent job flying, and they didn't pay anything in those days because there were so many pilots available. So the only other thing I really knew how to do was in construction, and like building houses and remodeling and that kind of stuff. So I started my own little remodeling company, and I was just doing that kind of work. Along the line, my best friend, Steve Zimmerman, who still lives in Camas, Washington, I met him right after I got born again, and we grew up together in the Lord. And then he came to work with me in the construction company. And so we worked together for the next like 20 years, something like that. So it was really unique that my best friend, when I got saved, we ended up working together for all those years. We're still friends, and we're still in contact all the time on social media, even though I don't live in the States anymore. But construction work was not my cup of tea, you know. I didn't mind it. It was okay, and I could do it. But I really felt like, you know, there was something more that I needed to be doing, and that was in ministry. But I didn't know how or any way to get involved in anything like that. So I wasn't really happy in the work. I was frustrated with that. I was having some issues in the marriage after about 10 years on. And most of that was my issues, my problem. But it just, wasn't working out real well. And so what happened is by 1979, the interest rates had gone up to about 18%. So people weren't borrowing money, and the building stopped, the remodeling stopped, all this stuff stopped. And so it was a very difficult time, a very depressing time. And, they were going to shut the phone off, the car payments weren't getting made, the house payments weren't getting made, and, it was a horribly depressing time. Plus it was the winter in the Northwest, wet. If you've ever been through a winter in the Northwest, it's horrible. And so it was raining every day, there was no work, and it was just, I don't get depressed much, but I was depressed. I even thought about suicide a couple times, but I didn't want to leave the kids, with that kind of a thing in their memory. So, needless to say, I was depressed to the max in every way. And so, I didn't know what to do. Well, my wife at the time was a school teacher at a Christian school, and I had done a lot of construction work on that building over the years, and they needed some volunteer help to do some painting in the gym and this and that and the other thing. So for something to do, I began to go over to the school and just do whatever volunteer work I could do, just to help pass the time. And and one day I was painting in the gym, and this lady was there, and she came in, and she came over and was helping with the painting and all that. And as the days went by, we got to talking, and it turned out that her husband owned a small plane, a Cessna Cardinal, retractable, high wing, no strut airplane. And it was at a little airport in Woodland right alongside the I-5 freeway. I knew exactly where it was. And so that was kind of interesting, that her husband had this plane and stuff. And so one thing led to another, and then some really amazing things happened that, is just the God thing. And so in the next video, I'm going to explain to you exactly how God moved in a miraculous way to dig us out of a financial hole that we were in at that time. So thanks for tuning in. We're still at cruising altitude, making good time, and I will see you on the next video.